Yes, a very beautiful morning out there, and welcome again to another amazing edition of Political Perspective on your darling station, iPower 102.7 FM. I am Florence E. Barima, and of course, with me on the program always is our in-house analyst, Mr. Should I call you Mr. Akin Adebayo? Good morning, Akin Adebayo.
Why you tell you got to call me Mister? You'd have called me Academia straight away.
Don't mind me. I was just trying to pull your leg because it's a new month, and
Okay.
there's this merriment still in me to celebrate the new month and of course the new week. So
And
good morning,
and the
Akin.
50th year anniversary.
Exactly, because it's a merry month for us. A lot of us are still celebrating
Is
the
that right?
50th Ondo State anniversry. So good morning this morning, Akin Adebayo.
Yeah, good morning this point as well.
Just-
Florence
Just coming down here wasn't so stressful.
Not at all. Thanks for having me on the program.
It's always a pleasure to have you, as you always come to our rescue every time.
pleasure
So
is
yes, like I said earlier, the program is Political Perspective, and today is no different because we will be looking into the major headline making wave in Ondo State as a whole, which is talking about Ondo State at 50. And need I remind us that this is a program where we actually see beyond the surface discussion, where we have interrogative discussion regarding governance, leadership, and social contract between the state and the people. And this week, today's edition, will be majoring our focus on the lens of the historic milestone of Ondo State at 50. 50 years ago, Ondo State was carved out of hope, promises, and of course clear expectations to bring governance closer to the people. This accelerates development and of course to harness the rich human natural resources of the land for collective progress. Today, 5 decades later, we are not just counting years, we are counting results, mixed opportunity, achievement, and of course unresolved challenges. This program is not about pageantry, of course, or political sentiment. It is about our honest reflection. What has Ondo State become after 50 years of leadership transition, policy experiment, democratic struggle, and of course economic realities? As governance translated into improved living standard for the average citizens, have our abundant resources been managed in many ways that reflect the dreams of our founding fathers? Yes, these and many more questions we'll be asking ourselves today. And of course, on Political Perspective, we'll take a very holistic examination of Ondo State's journey, its political evolution, the economic development, the social investment, infrastructural growth, even security as it may concern us, and of course to our democratic culture. We'll also look beyond the past to interrogate the present and of course chart a clear direction for the future. Because of course 50 is a statement that has to make a mark. Now back to our in-house analyst talking about Ondo State at 50. What do you have to say about Ondo State at 50 before I go into our different questions we have today?
Well, thank you once more for having me on the program.
You're welcome.
Yeah, when we say that Ondo State at 50, I mean, it's something worth celebrating. That we are alive up to this point in time, I mean, it's worth celebrating. That even the fact that we are created, we are carved out of, I mean, to be a state on our own, is something to celebrate. The fact that, okay, relatively at least, there have been some improvement. I mean, when it comes to infrastructure and what have you, I'm not saying at the immediate, but of course, contribution from the past is something that is worth celebrating. And most importantly, that even we as human beings, we are alive to witness Ondo State at 50. It was celebrating. It reminded me of the coronation of Prince Charles. That's now, King Charles. This Queen Elizabeth spent about 70 years. Many people never experienced the coronation. You understand? So it was an avenue for people that are alive now to actually have an experience of United Kingdom king or queen. Coronation. So to a large extent, the fact that we are alive is something that is actually worth celebrating. So I think we should just keep it at that at the moment. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And still talking on those State at 50. Now, what do you have to say about where we're coming from and where we're going to?
Thank you very, very much. I think I would not want us to bother ourselves much about the military era.
Okay.
Since we've returned back to democracy some 20 something years back.
Okay.
But of course, we let us just limit it down to democratic settings. Okay, I will go briefly into the decolonization era. We all knew what decolonization stands for: transparency, good governance. In fact, when it comes to education in Ondo State, Western region, it was his initiative. But our lower now leveraged on it and introduced it in the whole Western region of then.
Okay, maybe I should just go to the history part of it a bit, then we can launch in our questions. Now, for information and for educative purpose, Ondo State was created on February 3rd, 1976, from the old Western state during the military reconstructing under the General Murtala Muhammad. The creation was driven by the desire for administration, convenience, political inclusion, and grassroots development. So at interception, Ondo State carried the reputation of being rich in culture, education, and human capital. The expectation was simple: a state driven by intellectual leadership, strong institution, and equitable development. So for those wondering how come we're celebrating 50, Ondo was created February 3rd, 1976. Now, going back to a question, since you say we should leave the military and focus on the civilian administration, talking more on power, Joshing, why is it easy for everybody to actually make a reference to that administration? Why is it so significant?
Thank you very, very much. You see, the singular reason why people, always reference Patrick Majashi, tenure, is because of what he achieved during his, tenure as the governor. And not just him, even the late sage himself, in person of Chief Obafemi Awolowo. When Obafemi Awolowo was the premier of Western region, Patrick Majashi then was the governor of Ondo State. Then Ondo State, I should be clear about it. It was then Ondo and Ekiti combined. Do you understand? Now, this was an era whereby the states and the region as a whole actually enjoyed tremendous progress in terms of infrastructure, in terms of development, in terms of education. You understand? And it still trickles down up to this point in time. So that is why, whenever we discuss the issue of governance in Ondo State, let me the Western region, we refer to that era. It was one of the best era in Nigeria and in Western region. Let me be specific, in Western region and Ondo State in particular. So that is why it's very rare for any person that is campaigning, particularly for the governorship seat, that will not always reference the tenure or the era of late Adekunle Ajasin, because he actually achieved a lot tremendously, and his legacies are still there. Unfortunately, most of these things has gone moribund. Most of these things has gone bankrupt. The question is this: how did we get there? How did all these things went moribund? How did all this got bankrupted? It's as a result of the previous or the successive leadership that succeeded Patrick Majashi. That was an interregnum when the military actually intruded into Nigerian democracy. So, and one thing is this: the military era. That's why I don't like discussing it, because Akpashewa, that's what they call them. You cannot query them. They're autocrats. And they're autocrats. So that is just it. So that's why I don't really like going much. And we never give them our sovereignty. We never voted for them. We never wanted them. They imposed themselves on us. But the question now is this: what about the people we actually went to the poll to cast our vote for? Either we were induced, is immaterial, but there was an election. An election actually took place. An election was held, and we actually voted and casted our vote for particular aspirant that now became our governor and now became our representative on various stages of governance. So that's why we like to always question or query, or should I say pontificate, and look into their administration, because we voted for them then. You understand? So that is the more reason why it appears that we do discuss that era. And that is why even politicians, you see them always campaigning on the mantra of the late sage, Adekunle Ajasin. So that is just it, by the way.
Okay, I'm looking at one of the challenges we've come to understand when it comes to Ondo State governance and government. There has been this issue about continuity when it comes to projects. Like when this administration is done, However, or no matter how beautiful the project may seem ongoing, once that administration ends their tenure, it's most likely the project ends with the tenure. So talking about continuity and inconsistency as it contained or as it regards to Ondo State, how do you think what is a way forward? What is that one sense you can actually give to the government talking inconsistency and continuity when
Thank
it comes to project management
thank you.
from government from one particular governance to another?
Thank you very, very much. You see, actually, it's unfortunate that most of the time we say that governance is continuum. But when it comes to the practical aspect of it, unfortunately, we discover that it is not continuum. Actually, and one of the major reasons is this. The very minute an opposition party succeed the ruling party in governance, they might want to get to see what has been on ground before.
Before you continue, is it a case of they trying to prove their own mandate or their own stand, so they want to actually always want to start afresh, or is just a lifestyle when it comes to policy continuity?
I would say it's kind of lifestyle.
Okay.
But unfortunately, someone came on board and actually debunked that. But I'll come to that anyway.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say, initially, is that if you could remember in 1999, I mean, it was Adibade Farati that became the governor when we returned back to democracy. I was under the Alarm for Democracy government. It did some lawful projects, and it was succeeding a military regime then. So there's no way, people are not yet familiar with democratic settings, and moreover, the rot that the military has actually created then, it will take some time for him to actually stabilize. But unfortunately, Baba was able to spend just a term there. And after that, Agaguna succeeded him and led Dr. Olusegun Agagu, a lecturer, a geologist, succeeded him. And Agagu equally, tried his own best as well, But unfortunately for Agagu, after his first term, he went for the second term. Yeah, he would now face some litigation by Mimiko then. So I think we can now say conveniently that Mimiko actually, personally, from my personal opinion, I'll say that is the architect of, let's say, modern Ondo State then. Because Mimiko actually embarked on some monumental project. This his tenure started from February 24, 2009 to 2017. He reclaimed his mandate via court after initial electoral dispute. It was 20 after the tribunal and stuff like that. He had the major push in education with mega primary school.
Okay.
He called it Carrying Art Project. And these are things that we still see, whenever you go to any community, you see this orange color, building.
Yeah.
Just know for sure that one was introduced by Mimiko. He introduced urban renewal. He established quality education agency, which focus on peace building, making Ondo State, he expanded infrastructure, health facilities. When it comes to health facilities, tomorrow you are still saying it. The Mother and Child Hospital. I remember vividly, many people even came from other, southwestern states to benefit from this health facility. That is the legacy. Okay, look at the medical school that he built in Ondo town.
Is it safe to say that no matter how important a project is, once a new administration comes on board, it can just go down the drain? Because I remember at the time of that Mother and Child, it was spoken far and wide. Everyone talked about it, but it's amazing how the whole the whole initiative just went off like that. So is it a case of no matter how beautiful or useful a project is, so long the administration is gone, that project has no tendency of actually seeing the light of day?
Thank you very, very much. One thing was you understand is this. At times in a particular administration, there might be an oil boom. And whenever there's an oil boom in the country, there will be more fund for states to actually execute projects. Mother and Child, as we all know, most of the things that's obtainable there happens to be free. Like personally, I love Mother and Child, but to an extent I faulted it. Okay. Because then,
why?
The then governor, in person of Mimiko, jettisoned the existing general hospital. Now focus more on, and we shouldn't be. There is something before something. You don't build something on nothing. No. I could remember vividly when a woman went to give birth in general hospital. The entire mattresses were empty in the ward. It was empty. And while you get to mother and child, you see people there, flocking around. Even some even give birth
So
at
that
the entrance of the
back,
gate.
takes
Now,
us back to the policy inconsistency and continuity.
exactly. No,
Okay.
you should understand. Now, like I said, now what will it have cost the government?
To work on
I'm not saying that I
existing-
should not introduce mother and child. It's a very good one. But what does it have costed him to make sure that the existing one flourishes as well? When the thing moves pari passu, it makes things more. It makes life more easier for the people. But unfortunately, it gets seen that, and it started. A new project.
Okay.
These are the things.
Okay, now talking about the lifestyle it has, the lifestyle, what's the impact of our leadership style on the masses?
Yeah, thank you.
What has their leadership style? How has it affected the ordinary persons,
Thank you very, very much.
or even the government as a whole?
Thank you very, very much. Number one, we discovered that the leadership style, to a large extent, it has affected us negatively. Though no doubt there's some benefit too that is accrued in the leadership style, but the negative aspect seems to be more pronounced.
Okay.
Take, for instance, that mother and child, for instance. Like I said, now when you now get to see the existing general hospital, now for a new one, and like I've always said, can't he, and there is more space. You see, you are a governor. Some people say that civil servant, they're frustrating. It's a lie. Civil servant cannot frustrate a willing government. If you really want to do something, there is no amount of civil servant that can frustrate you. If really you really want to do it, you want to get it done. So that is why I condemn the act of the mentality of saying that civil servant and what have you. No. So to me, like in that area of health, I condemn in totality him jettisoning the existing general hospital and now focus or dwell more on his own initiative. These are the things. So I want to believe that he would have done the same thing pari passu. We understand that he should not do his own project ideas, but of course not at the expense of the existing one. This thing equally happened in the case of one of our radio stations, OSRC and Positive FM. The very minute Positive FM, not is it Positive FM? Yeah, Positive FM. It affected OSRC. These are the things. So, I can go on and on and on. But what I'm saying in a nutshell is that whenever there's a policy somewhere, so whenever like I've earlier said, in Nigeria, that governance is continuum. It's not theoretical than practical. And that is where the problem is. And no doubt, it will take a toll on the government itself and equally affect the citizens that also benefited from the continuity of the good governance.
So what would you say the governance culture in Ondo State is?
Thank you very, very much. Now, when it comes to the issue of Ondo State,
Yes.
The governance culture, like I said, I want to commend Akeredolu, for instance. Because, for instance, Akeredolu never changed the color. And I can assure you, if it were to be someone else, he would have, because that color is still the most pronounced color till date. The logo, the what have you, he retained it. I commend him for that. Now, where Akeredolu has problem with the issue of this program, because many people actually complain, is that the fund that was coming in during Mimiko's era didn't come in during Akeredolu's era. So there was no way it could actually continue with that free medical facility. You should not deceive yourself. You understand? I'm not coming to defend Akeredolu, no. But that is what I observed. But of course, Akeredolu still achieves on certain things in his own area. Now, when it comes to the issue of security, if I don't even mention that thing, because when it comes to road infrastructure and what have you,
local security.
Yeah. I mean, the take of a thing.
Yes.
I mean, give it to him. This was the man that actually, in fact, the way he confronted the federal government, there, even at the expense of his second term, election. He spoke to power. I remember him, and these are the things. This actually boosted the morale of the Democratic Corps then. Now the question is that same morale still there now? And this question we need to ask ourselves. So when it comes to certain things, give it to Akeredolu. He actually tried his own best there. When he was alive as well. So he actually, to an extent, he continued with the legacy of Mimiko. But of course, it was small short of fun then in implementing some of those. The only issue people just had with his admission then happens to be his family intrusion into the administration of Akeredolu. It was very pronounced, and to a large extent, it affected his performance as well. So, which simply means that if he had not allowed the family to intrude his administration to that extent, it's possible he would have even achieved more than what he actually achieved. And this equally, of course, we equally saw it when he brought down on his health. I'm sure to say this: in a case whereby your husband is sick at the point of death, and you are still in those states or in Nigeria, even attempted celebrating birthday when your husband is somewhere in Germany struggling for survival, I mean, no, that is the height of it. So you cannot imagine what could have transpired when they were still in government. The urban was still hale and hardy. So these are the things. So his family intrusion actually costed him a lot. So that's that it costed him his life. That's the best I can put the whole thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You're still on to political perspective on your darling station, iPower 102.7 FM. And of course, I have in the house Akin Adebayo doing justice to some of the questions being asked as regards Ondo at 50. We'll go on a very short break. When we come back, we continue with the rest of our analysis as regards Ondo at 50. Welcome back. You're still on to us from iPower 102.7 FM, and the program is Political Perspective. And we've been doing justice to the Ondo at 50, where we are, where we're going, and how far we have come. Now, looking at the area of economic development and resources, it is not news that Ondo State is richly blessed. Fertile land, we have natural resources, we have the oil producing area, yet economic performance have not always matched the abundance. Now, talking about agriculture remains under mechanized, and when it comes to industries, it remains limited. When it comes to revenue dependency on federal allocation, that has always been persistent. Now, at 50, the key question is, why has resources wealth not translate to widespread prosperity? Why is it looking as if after all the natural resources we enjoy, why has that not matched with the wealth of the society? Why has that not matched with our prosperity as a whole? So now let's take a look at the agriculture first. What do you have to say about our agriculture, and how do you think we can actually move forward so at least at the end, by the next 50 years, we can actually have this widespread prosperity among ourselves?
Thank you very, very much. Of course, like I'm having here, the government has earmarked 7.5 billion and 26,000 hectares for agricultural and food security. Okay. You understand? Which is a very good one. But the achievement is the most important thing. How focused, how determined, how resolute is the administration. Like you rightly read at the other time now, all this wealth, all these natural resources, how has it translated in making the lives of the citizens better? You understand? It's all about focus. It's all about determination. It's all about being resolute. How determined, how focused are you? Okay, take for instance now, like I will just want to say, it becomes a sorry case when, should I say, some analysts will tell you that, okay, now the governor has spent just a year. I begin to ask the question, what about the 1 year left behind by Akeredolu? Is that not part of it? Okay, now, in as much as I try to understand the politicking and politicking that took place in his emergence as the governor, we all knew what happened then. But after the whole something, it was sworn in. Now, I think ideally, to me, I think it should have just, let's say, keep the ground running then. But rather, these political parties keep on, manipulating things, saying all manners. And of course, the governor then actually battled with so many challenges. But now is more stable. So we need to be more focused. But unfortunately now, in the court again now, we are now hearing about maybe can contest for second time or what have you. These are the things that are bringing about him losing focus. So I think the governor should not allow people to just start derailing it. It should be more focused. You saying that you've earmarked 7.5 billion, blah, 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 and what have you, is not as important as you implementing it. Do you understand? Now, for instance, now, there is this oil company that they're going to partnership with Ondo State in a certain region. Of course, this electricity, company as well is a very good one. What about the seaport? It has been, but every of these things needs follow up. It needs backup and cooperation of the political bigwigs. in the state as well. But the very minute you start having issues, like some, and people do predate on stuff like this. Take for instance now, a particular minister now in Abuja, that people are not saying that he's working against the governor, this stuff and that stuff, because he's ambitious. Anybody can be ambitious, but at the same time, it's not left for the governor to now know how to manage all these various side talks, to manage all the people that are giving him all manners of information just to benefit, to predate on him. You understand? It's the governor. These people won't be asked. It is the governor that will be asked. Or just like the way we are extracting the administration of the previous government from Adefarati to Olusegun Agagu to Mimiko to Akeredolu, now to him. So I think, of course, the governor, no doubt, have good intentions, have good plans, but the people actually working with him, most of them are distracting. I must say this. They're distracting him. But ideally, this is not the time for people to start saying that, okay, can he contest? If somebody's going to, now there's the matter for the court about his tenureship. Maybe he can contest again. And the constitution makes it clear, which I want to discuss it here now, you understand? But the governor should rather put aside all this politicking and politicking now and face governance. And face governance. God forbid, in a worst case scenario, even if he can't maybe go for another time, but at least his performance can still fetch him a Senate seat in a senatorial district. If I'm not mistaken, the Senate now is now the retirement home for majority of the former governors. You understand? So I think the governor they should allow the governor to perform, to be more focused. And the governor himself should deliberately, intentionally, not lose focus on his own programs as well. Because the very minute he starts giving attention to every of these politicking and politicking, I can assure you, all this might be a mirage. I'm telling you, it might be a mirage. So as a matter of fact, the governor needs to be more focused on what he actually intends doing, so that all this wealth, all these natural resources can translate, can show better in the lives of the citizens of the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your contributions as regards our analysis talking on Doe at 50. You can reach us on our studio line 0816-552-4699. 0816-552-4699. If you have something contrary to what we've been saying, or you have one or two to add to what we've been saying so far, you can actually reach us on our studio line 0816-552-4699. Welcome back. The program is still Political Perspective on your darling station, IPOWER 102.7 FM. And of course, still talking on Doe at 50. We'll take a look at the education, health, and also human capital. Now, looking at Ondo State, Ondo once stood tall when it comes to educational hub. However, over the years, we have issues of decline funding. We have issues of strike. We have even issues of poor infrastructures that have actually weakened that legacy. When it comes to the education, now, what is the education legacy of the old Western region? How do you think we can move forward when it comes to the area of education in our today Ondo State?
Thank you very, very much. Like you rightly said the other time, education legacy of the Western region started in Ondo State by late Adekunle Ajasin, and it was now introduced to the entire Western region. And that is why till date, Ondo State is still one of the leading states when it comes to educational performance in Nigeria and in maybe Western region as well. Now, I think the government just needs to do more. Like what he did. Recently, he distributed, he paid the WAEC fee of about 20,000 students. That's about 633 million, which is a very good one. But it should go beyond that. Now, how do I mean? It's a matter of him going to do. You see, there are so many schools now that still needs attention. Education has gone beyond you just paying WAEC fees and maybe JAM fees and what have you. No, it has gone beyond that. We need more structures in those schools. And as a state, like what he did recently about the issue of maybe textbooks renewal and what have you, it's a very good one as well. We all know what we pass through as parents in getting different textbooks for our wards every time, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe every session, or the case may be. Gone are those days that about 5 siblings can use the same textbook. Do you understand? So for him to have put a check to that, particularly on private school owners, is a very good one. But of course, like I said, schools need more infrastructure. more classrooms, more teachers. Recently, you employed maybe about 5,000 or thereabout, teachers. That's the welcome, but it still needs to do more. The teacher that we need now is far more than 5,000. Like recently, I think there was a protest in, I've forgotten, in this Oselo government. I think some youth protested that, and they started giving us the numbers of teachers. In some school, you have just one teacher. You can imagine. 5,000 teachers is not enough at the moment. We have so many graduates that study education that are lingering the streets of Akure or Ondo as a whole. Those people should be gathered together. Even if maybe, like even schools as well. If you cannot see for now, confirm them as, full-time teachers. Let them be under the PTA. At least it's in one way or the other. Help the teachers. To be able to teach you, to add more to the strength, to the workforce, or of the school. And from there, a very good teacher, a PTA teacher, can now metamorphose or graduate into a civil service teacher.
Okay,
these are the things.
From what you're saying now, the governor has been doing well, but he can do better.
He can do better, exactly.
Okay. Now let's leave the education sector because, of course, Mr. Governor has been doing well, and we implore him to please do better and look into the rural area the more. Okay, aside that, and let's go quickly into the health sector. Now, in some areas, the urban areas now, we've seen that the healthcare facility actually have improved to a reasonable extent. But when it comes to the rural communities, they are still struggling when it comes to access to infrastructures. Now, what do you have to say about the healthcare access and infrastructure?
Thank you very, very much. Like you rightly observed, in the urban area, of course, there are, apart from government-owned hospitals, there are other private hospitals as well. But when it comes to the rural area, and that is where the problem is, the rural, like for instance, is there farm in the urban area? No. Even if you want to take yourself, if you want to administer drug and medication on any person, it still needs to eat. So that is why we need to look into those rural areas, making sure that look, for instance, at the issue of agriculture that the governor embarked upon. To me, I want to believe that there are so many lands that are just wasting over there. I'm just saying this anyway, can't there be a good road network to those areas, put in place maybe accommodation facility and standard school, and get people there? Let there be agricultural impetus there as well, implement, and so that people can only, there are ways you decongest the cities. Is by you opening roads to those rural areas. People are ready to go there. People are ready to farm. But what about the security? What about the gone are those days that exactly gone are those days that you use cutlass to koho and cutlass? No, it's no longer in existence. So I want to believe that if the government is deliberate, if the government is intentional, all these things are achievable. We have so many graduates that are ready to work, that are ready to drive those tractors and what have you. But of course, the security and the land is available. So, like I've always said, if the government is only deliberate, all these are achievable, and the very many those things are there. Of course, what about the issue of the health as well? Do you realize that an average nurse, maybe in the rural area, at times is having more experience when it comes to childbirth and maybe other sicknesses than a nurse in the urban area? These are the things. So why can't the government just try to make sure that these rural areas, they are well taken care of?
There should be interconnectedness.
Exactly. That was what Miko did. I think there's a particular phone that was given to those rural, health centers and dwellers. The very minute you are pregnant, you are given a phone. These are laudable programs. You know that the World Health Organization came down to Ondo State to actually investigate how do you go about these stuffs. Do you understand? Look, in every government, there are things you can extract and introduce into your own government. That doesn't make you a dullard. No, it makes you someone that is very. It's just like in those days. Why the people say that Abawolo was very brilliant in any of the meeting, whenever they are seated, maybe OD meeting and what have you, he speaks last. And what does he do? He must have been able to gather, points from other speakers. And by the time he starts analyzing his own, you see making sense. So in the same way, a governor, if you are there, it's a matter of you looking into previous administration, tap into what you see there. Do you understand? And make sure you call it. You add more to it. You improve on it as well. Do you understand? Okay. These are the things.
Let's move forward from that. Talking on unemployment of youth. Now, the youth, the Ondo greatest asset. face unemployment and migration due to limited opportunities. How do we overcome the issue of youth unemployment when it comes to Ondo State, talking Ondo at 15?
Thank you very, very much. Now, the issue of youth unemployment is not just limited to Ondo State. It's everywhere. But the question is this: how are the governors what have they been putting in place to make sure that the youth in other states, are gainfully employed? If they're putting in place the necessary infrastructures. You see, take for instance, Ekiti, that Ondo State bettered. Ondo State bettered Ekiti some 20 years ago. I can assure you the rate at which Ekiti has gone is far more than Ondo State. Why? It's because of the deliberate effort and the deliberate intention of the previous governors. So there's a blueprint on ground that other governors must definitely leverage on. Either it was done deliberately or maybe unconsciously. It's immaterial. But now there's a template in Ekiti that when you get there, you must do something that one or two persons must be able to see. So when we're talking about youth unemployment and what have you, thank God, like I said the other time, if the governor can be more forceful by making sure that he's able to penetrate anywhere penetrable, particularly let me tell you this. Ondo State, we are having a chance here. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, Ondo State gave the present president the highest number of votes in Western region. Ondo State, as God will have it, is an APC state. And as God will equally have it, we are having a fellow Yoruba person in the presidency. We must be sincere with ourselves. It's an avenue. The government should just leverage on that. Try to bridge more. For instance, the seaport now. Getting the certificate is not enough as compared to you being forceful in making sure that seaport kicks off. Because there are so many proposals on the president's table and many people are calling lobbying him. You understand? And aside that, what about other things that are going on? Maybe the refinery, by the time if the governor can be, I keep on advocating on being deliberate about these things. By the time all these things are put in place, I can assure you the issue of youth unemployment will be a thing of the past. And again, what about the issue of maybe road networking? It will quite help.
I was about getting to the area of infrastructure when it comes to road networking and even our security, because on those states at some point when it comes to infrastructure development, and those states remains uneven, because the truth be told, many times those in the rural area suffer more. It's almost as if they are not parts of the Ondo State. I've heard of places where they say they don't actually have electricity, and while some areas have constant electricity. So now, what is the link? How do we link the rural? How do we close that gap between the urban area and the rural area?
Thank you very, very much. Like I've always said, the government just need to be deliberate. There's no amount of what I want. I can only hear my opinion, my view, but now for the governor to be deliberate about what he actually wants to do. One thing you must understand is this: this administration is on his name. You say, "Lucky I that was administration, not his essay, not his commissioners." No, it is lucky I hear that you are administration. So I would just advise that most of the time you just sit back and begin to you can have essays, you can have commissioners, you can have all manners. But one thing you must know is this: these people, what's their interest in this government? The government is on his name. So what I'm saying in a nutshell is that the government just need to do more when it comes to linking the rural areas to the urban area by opening the roads. You see, when you even do this, I can assure you, there will be less congestion in the urban city.
Okay, and sorry to cut you short there. I want us to. Our time is fast running, and I want us to look into the areas of that our security concern. Talking about the recent kidnapping, criminal activities. How do you think we can navigate through so that criminal activities will be at the minimum when it comes to those states?
Thank you very, very much. I must say it on a very personal note.
Okay.
The force at which late Akedolu actually propelled Amotekun then, the force is not there at the moment. Okay. That's why the governor needs to do more regarding that. Yes. Take for instance, an incident happened that was kind of gone wrong between Amotekun and the headers around that Sabo area, that Akure Ado Road, for about 2 hours. Sabo, you go by this area for about 2 hours. I'm sorry to say the governor never uttered a word, never even went to caution those people. I can assure you, if Akedo were to be alive, he would have gone there in person. Do you know the meaning of you having the presence of the governor in such sin? No, it speaks volume. Akeredolu will tell you, we go to the bush with you. You bring your weapon, we bring our home, we face you, we attack you, we flush you out. Look, these are words that give the Amotekun Corps morale. You understand? Actually, recently he has just employed under 5,000. It's a very good one. But employing them is not as sufficient as you making sure that the employment letter is given to them. And that was the mistake Akeredolu made. Let these people, let them be given an employment letter. Let their health and insurance and their life, let it be insured. Let them have hope. Now, whenever they go to meet these, non-state actors, these criminals in our various forests, that if anything happens to them, their family is safe. These are the things, these are propelling factors that makes people to go out all there in attacking this set of persons. You understand? So security is very key. It's very, very key. So that is why the governor needs to really be up and doing regarding that. No matter what he wants to do, no matter what he wants to achieve in this administration, security is very, very key. And Akeredolu has laid the template that he can actually leverage on heavily. If Akeredolu could face, the Buhari administration then, the Fulani administration then, so what are we not talking about? We are having a fellow Yoruba man there, and I can assure you, in fact, coupled with what is happening presently, the intervention of US in Nigerian security. These are enough reasons for any state governor that is actually willing, particularly Ondo State, because it appears that Ondo State now appears to be the corridor for these people to actually penetrate the southwest. So the governor needs to really be up and do. If Enugu could have about 5 drones, then I think Ondo State can only have 2. Moreover, we are being disturbed the more here. So the governor should be there. I will continue to emphasize it. He needs to be more deliberate about his policy front and making sure that every of his good intentions come to reality, come to fruition.
Timely.
Exactly, timely. So that is the most important thing here.
All right, thank you very much for that beautiful contribution. Still talking on Ondo at 50. I want to take a very quick look at political culture and citizens' participation. Now, according to what you said at that time, you said Ondo State gave the current president the much vote when it comes to delivering a mandate. Now, so talking about democracy, thrive and participation in Ondo State. Now, voters' apathy have grown over the years due to the distrust in political process. Now, however, our civil societies, our traditional rulers and institutions, and the media continue to play a vital role in demanding accountability. A state at 50 must have a deepened democratic culture when it comes to elections. So what is your take when it comes to our electoral participation, when it comes to our political accountability, when it comes to our roles as civil society and the media, when it comes to our roles as citizens to engage in the governance? What is your take on it?
Thank you very, very much. The citizens, no doubt, has the power.
Okay.
I can assure you, if today we all resolved to vote for a particular party, a particular candidate, and we vote en masse, to rig such an election is very, very difficult. But the question is, how did we get here? In 1999, when we returned back to democracy, there was no vote buying. 2003, there was no vote buying. Vote buying started in the year 2007. Why? In 1999, someone that contested for maybe for House of Assembly or what have you, or maybe chairman of a council, or maybe House of Rep, that you normally see on the street, that you are both holding together on the street, all because he now occupies political office. Before you see Jack Robinson, he becomes a millionaire. The funniest thing is that you will not even see that person all through. It is when you now want to contest again, that's when you now come around again. If you are to be that person that a friend of yours contested, that you know very, very well, you know his financial status, or because he was fortunate or privileged to get to maybe one political office or the other, he now became a millionaire, he now avoided you. Or for that person to now come back again because you want to seek an re-election. You will ask questions. Alright? The first time or the second time you went, what did I gain? Now what is in for me? That was how it started. So we simply mean that if only the government had been deliberate in giving out the dividend of democracy to Nigeria, and not maybe empowering anybody that is political office. It is only in Nigeria that the very minute you occupy a political office, either via election or through appointment, you automatically become the millionaire. And we shouldn't be. And that is why things are the way it is now. And that is why poverty has been weaponized. And that is why vote buying is now the order of the day. And that is why there is electoral apathy on some part of some people. Because the people actually went out to vote, for the candidate of their choice. Now discover that the vote of people that were bought over subsumed their own votes. And they will now decide, okay, since my vote will not count, let me go sit back home. This has been the major problem. But of course, there's still what you can do about it. It's about when people begin to understand that, look, if only, and unfortunately, these politicians, they now know how to go about it. That's why you will be surprised that they will start telling you, if you cast your vote, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. It will take the mercy of God for somebody that is yet to eat, to resist such temptation. By the time they start dangling 10, 15, 20,000 before you, it takes the grace of God. These are the things, and these politicians, they all understand this, and that's where the problem is.
Let's look at the way forward now when it comes to economic diversification, when it comes to transparency, when it comes to even youth inclusion in governance, when it comes to our institutional strength. What do you think is the way forward as regards this all Ondo State at 50, and also looking at the next 50 years? How do you think the government, we the citizens, everyone can work together to make a better Ondo State? Thank
you very, very much. I will continue saying it. The governor needs to be deliberate about his policy front.
Okay.
It is. You see, I don't know how to put this time around. When you really want something to be achieved, as a governor, you have the power. You should not deceive ourselves. We all know what Tinubu is doing in the presidency. We all know that a particular monster in this country, and that is the issue of local autonomy, has been a major problem in this country. But this man has achieved it. Though he's a bit political about it now, probably because of his second term. So I can assure you, by the time he wins the second term election, God helping him, you will now see the full implementation of both the court judgment and the constitutional review on local autonomy. These are policy fronts. So that's what I keep on saying. Okay, take for instance, we are celebrating 50th anniversary of state creation. Is that not? Do you know that Ogun State is doing the same thing? Osun is doing theirs. No, not Osun. Ogun State is doing theirs. Oyo is doing theirs. And which other state? I think maybe about 3 of us like that. You understand? Now, can we compare what is obtainable in those states? It was obtainable here. When it comes to infrastructure and water view, some people now say, some people just come up with some highly inflammable excuses that this one, that, and it's not tenable to me.
On the flip side of it, Shore came out to say something about we celebrating Ondo at 50, where we should be celebrating this. Do you have any take on that?
Well, Shore, like I've always said, he has been an active for some time. Okay. He's from this state. So for him to have said anything, he knows what he's saying.
Okay.
Do you understand? He knows what he's saying. And of course, we should not deceive ourselves. Like, take for instance, the Oyo State, the Ogun State. They didn't just get to where they had today overnight. No. It's as a result of deliberate effort by previous administration. Do you understand? So that's why I keep on saying it. You cannot heap the whole blame on either to where that Ondo State is still crawling at this level. No. Of course, other administration as well, as in one way or the other, not contributed as expected. But the matter is this: if the present government is so deliberate about it, I can assure you all those things are still achievable. That is why now there is more funds coming in. So I want to believe that if the governor really wants something to be done, it can be done. As a governor, he needs to lobby some set of persons, either both at the state and national level, in helping to push some certain things, in achieving some certain things. There are people that matter in this state that if the governor can rally and rally them, he has what it takes to do that. And he can influence them positively into the state. But of course, he equally needs to play his own part, and that is putting in place the necessary infrastructure. Take for instance now, I think it was not yesterday about the president has now assented into, he has reviewed the condition of the exclusive right of the federal government and generating electricity. Now he has now been brought up to them to concurrent list now. So which means that a willing governor, a governor that is intentional, can leverage on that, like what we are having now in Ondo State, for instance. The power plant in maybe a Seldo or thereabout, though it's a private-owned power plant, but you know that the governor can now, through that power plant, influence other investors into other parts of the state. That's an example there. So these are the things. Now we have the seaport. Look, let me tell you this: Ondo State is so much blessed that by now The state like maybe your Ogun State should be coming far distance away from Ondo State. But unfortunately, Ekiti here that Ondo State better, it seems to be far better infrastructural wise than Ondo State. This is pathetic. So the governor, I will just appeal to him. He has been trying his best, but he needs to do more. It should be deliberate. It should be intentional about whatsoever he really wants to do for the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that insightful way forward as it comes to Ondo at 50. And I must say, it's always a pleasure having you on the program.
The pleasure is mine.
Thank you very much, Akin Adebayo, for joining us today. Yes, because of how far our time is spent, this is where we're going to be drawing the curtains on today's edition of Political Perspective. But one truth stands clear. Ondo at 50 is not just a celebration of years, but a test of conscience. The journey of the last 5 decades tells a complex story, moment of vision and progress, period of stagnation, leadership height, and of course, governance failure. You know, having voices like Omogele Shore, whether welcome or resisted, reminds us that democracy is incomplete without criticism, and that the anniversary should be a moment of self-examination other than self-congratulation. At 50, Ondo State is enough to reflect honestly on what has worked, what has failed, and what must urgently change. The real danger is not acknowledging shortcomings, but also ignoring them. Progress is not measured by a momentum alone, it is by the quality of life of people. The jobs created, security guaranteed, opportunities expanded, and even trust restored between the government and the governed. As members of the state, we must also look inward. Governance do not happen in isolation. The thieves or the failure based on civil engagement, accountability, and collective responsibility. The next chapter of Ondo State must be driven not by recycled promises, but by deliberate leadership, strong institution, and an informed, active citizenship. 50 years behind us should not offer just lessons, but also leave out the excuses. The next 50 years ahead demands courage, innovation, and sincerity when it comes to purpose. Ondo State still stand with huge potential. Now, potential without action remain a wasted possibility. So the question is simple, and it's for us. Will the next 50 years tell a better story than the last? I leave you with that question. And of course, this has been Political Perspective, and many thanks to our in-house analyst Akin Adebayo for always coming to help us, with one or two insight when it comes to political issues. And many thanks to everyone who has worked to meet today, from the general manager, Engineer Paul Olotu, to the head of programs, the head of news, and of course the engineers at the site, and of course the ICT manager and the studio manager. I am Florence Ibarima, and thank you for listening, thank you for thinking, and above all, thank you for staying engaged. Have a beautiful morning.